Hope everybody's doing good. We are here with another edition of KC Music Talk. Look at that sign. Ta-da. It's pretty awesome. So we are here today with a drummer here in Kansas City, Guy Hodson. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you, sir?
I'm pretty good, man. Thanks
Excellent.
for coming out and doing this.
Honored. I'm glad you give a crap about what I have to say.
Well, we'll see about that. We'll see about that.
This could go way into the edit pile.
No, yeah, no. I'm sure it'll be awesome. So I met you at the it was the Jerry's Jam.
Correct.
Probably.
Correct.
Yeah. So you've been kind of like subbing and playing with those guys for a long time, right? Or how do you know those guys?
Well, and that's where I think Scotty kind of forgot, but actually I was one of the originals too, and I was the one that did Thursdays every Thursday out in Lee Summit.
Oh right, yeah, I came up to that one a couple times. Yeah.
Because Scotty and Justin and I were in a band together, and the initial idea with Jam Night was Justin and I would go down to Westport, and they had the Hurricane. And the Hurricane...
Which is now the Riot Room.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Hurricane had this... It was Curtis Anderson, Baloney Ponies, Disco Dick. He's a Kansas City scene legend. He's been around for years and always brings a solid product. Well, at the time, he had his own little kind of... It wasn't really a jam per se, where people would sign up, but his band would play, and if he saw other musicians out in the audience, he'd ask him to come up and do a couple songs.
Yeah.
So Justin and I would go down to the Hurricane, have some drinks, and we'd jump up on stage and have a great time. Well, the old owner of Jerry's that was out in Lee Summit wanted to do something similar to where it was still a party-type atmosphere, where we were doing songs. It was a jam kind of thing too, but we were only doing songs that were kind of party tunes. So you wouldn't get these really B-side songs that kind of bummed, the table full of girls out that had never heard like a B-side Rush song or something,
Yeah, like Rush, Scotty?
Yeah, like Rush. Yeah.
Show me a t-shirt.
Oh, yeah. This is for Scotty, since there you go, right there.
Yeah.
Ban the Rush. Build a wall.
Take
on
that.
the north side. Anyways, yeah. So Scotty and Justin and I played in a band together and called the C Strings, and it was an original band, and we had a good time with it. Jeff Morin was our other guitarist, and he's since moved to Arizona, and he's doing well. We had a really good time with it, and
that's cool.
But things happened, and Justin got married, had a baby. I got married, had a baby, and so the original music thing kind of got put on the back burner, and then we started doing the jam thing. They had the Lenexa thing going, and I could never do 2 nights in a row.
Yeah. And
try and get up at 5:30 in the morning and do my day gig kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I just did Thursdays, and then that place kind of fell apart, and so Craig does a great job out here in Lenexa on Thursdays. So I just sub for him whenever he needs me.
Yeah.
And it's nice because it's like the grandbaby, or like babysitting like a niece or a nephew. They're great to play with. Then you just give them back.
Exactly.
It's all you. Yeah.
You don't have that extra pressure on you,
Well, it's not that the jam isn't fun, but other members of our band in the Troubadours have filled in, and they're not used to doing so. And after the night's over, it's if you don't know what to expect going into it, it can be very overwhelming. By the end, I always say, by the end of one of those, I go home in complete silence. I don't listen to any music on the way home.
Yeah.
I can't hear any noise because all night long my ears have been turned on.
Yeah, and your brain's on overdrive. Yeah,
you guys mentioned the Jedi thing, the Jam Night Jedi, and you really have to have that, because at any time the song could absolutely fall apart, and it's on you and whoever else is on stage with you that kind of knows what's going on to try and hold it together. So It's fun. It keeps you on your toes. It makes you a better musician because it forces you to really use your ears. But it's exhausting too by the end of the night, you know.
Yeah, sure. You said something interesting about the party atmosphere, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Scotty about this. He just did an interview with me last week, but that's something that I've been thinking about a lot with like song choices for bands or even at an open jam. And a lot of times as musicians, especially somebody like me or Scotty, we love playing really complicated stuff, and so we just, you know, we don't want to feel like the performing monkey, you know, up there. Right, yeah, exactly. And there's those 20 that everybody knows about, the Mustang Sally, Sweet Home Alabama, you know, there's, you know,
right.
And so we want to keep the audience kind of excited.
Correct.
But I know that, like, when I've gone to see like heavy metal shows or something, like I just can't stand it. I mean, it's like 8 songs in a row of just like punching you in the face. And I wonder if a lot of people do like ballads. Like, everybody needs that kind of at least one song to kind of calm it. But I've noticed that, like, what I wanted to do in our band is we wanted to do like 4 or 5 a set, you know. And I mean, would you think in general that's probably too many, like ballads, or too much, like you need to keep the party going, or what do you think about that?
Crowds differ, you know. We've got a lot of ballads in that songbook that we use with the Troubadour thing, and we bill ourselves as an all request band, and you know, all request meaning we've got the books. You try and pick something out of the book. Right. We might try and do something else that's not in the book, but we've got over 500 songs in there, and there's a lot of ballads in there.
Yeah.
I think that people just like good music. I don't necessarily think that, you know, you're going to get that party crowd that wants to get up and dance, and they just want, you know, Superstition and that kind of stuff, and Sweet Home Alabama,
right.
And that's fine. But then there's other people in the audience that get blown away when you can pull out something, you know, that's sentimental and sweet and emotional.
Yeah.
You know, you can really, you know, that's the beauty of music. You know, we did a church gig about 2 months ago, and there's a song that a lot of times I'll open the show with because it's just a great vocal exercise. It's good to warm up with, so we can do the crazier stuff. I could try and sing the crazier stuff later.
Right.
It's Sitting on the Dock of the Bay.
Yeah.
You know, not a hard song, but a great song, a classic. But I do it many times to open the show, and, you know, if you're in a bar situation, people listen, but you don't really get a lot of feedback from it. So we're in this church, and we do that song, and at the end of the show, the end of the sermon, the service, this guy comes up to me in tears, big burly biker guy, bawling his eyes out, and he starts telling me this story about how he was in Vietnam, and his best friend was a gunner on a Huey helicopter, and they served together, and that was his best friend's song. And 2 years ago, that guy committed suicide.
Wow.
And he's like, I love that song. You did it great, you know. And to me, that's where it's at for me. You know, if I could move somebody musically with something that I'm doing, that's great.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that song, you know.
Right.
You mentioned the Sweet Home Alabamas and stuff. There's people out there that never get out. There's, you know, parents that have young kids that never get a night out on the town.
Right.
So who am I to say when they finally get their night out on the town and get a babysitter, then I'm not going to play Jesse's Girl, or I'm not going to play Sweet Home Alabama.
That's a really good point that you're making, because that goes back to the attitude of most of us as musicians. You know, is that we want selfishly, because yes, of course we are bored. Yes, that's true, but you know, there's a huge argument among musicians, and this happened to us at college, where we saw the people that would have been on your guys' end where I'm in a straight cover band, we know we're doing this on purpose, and then you have all of these kind of basically artist types, you know, that are like, I have so much integrity, there's no way I'm being in a cover band, I'm going to do jazz, I'm going to do originals, you know, and they have this kind of attitude about, you know, oh, the little people, you know, that want the Mustang Sally, oh, that's so cute, oh, you know, and like, and like, I mean, what do you think about that with those people that have that kind of attitude that just plain won't play those songs? And I mean, what do you think about that?
I think they're approaching it wrong. I really do. You know, you have someone that I'm lucky enough to play with, like Scotty, who's, you know, he's Yoda. We call him Yoda because he's super, you know, trained, and he's put in all these years of work on multiple instruments, but you know, he's not too proud to play Mustang Sally and that kind of stuff. It's part of the job. Yeah. And you know, like you said, it's not art or whatever like that. I beg to differ. The way I approach a cover song, especially if I'm singing, I want to try and emulate how that person did it. I want it to sound like the original. I want people to be impressed with not just myself, but the versatility of the band, to be able to morph into different styles and pull it off. And you know, so that's an art in itself. You don't have to play a million notes. It's the quality of the notes, you know, and like the slow songs you said, you got to caress, man. You got to caress and respect the notes.
Give it touch.
Right. Yeah. Right. So, you know,
because that's what Scotty said on the thing. He's like, we're gonna play the crap out of Mustang Sally. Right. You know, that's his attitude towards it. Instead of like hating this song right now, I'm gonna like shred your face off on this song. Right. And just if this is what we got to play, I'm gonna make this the best Mustang Sally you've ever heard.
Absolutely.
Or at least the attempt. You know, and like, I just know that happens a lot in. I don't even want to say what scene, you know, but a lot of times that happened at college, you know, where we were thinking like that I have too much integrity to be that kind of a band, so I'm gonna do this, and it was just, I know I felt that way myself. Sure. You know, I definitely am guilty of that.
I'm not gonna say that there are not nights where you get bored doing certain songs. Right. You know, I could go without hearing Skinner. Not Sweet Home Alabama necessarily.
Any of them?
Simple Man.
Simple Man, yeah.
Simple Man, you know, and great song, but man, that gets requested a lot. Right. But the people that like it really like it. And though I might get bored, you really have to just take a deep breath and do it, and do it how they want to hear it, and you always get, you know, nice feedback on that song for some reason. So you know, if you have the attitude that it's you know, not artsy enough for you or anything like that, you're not going to make any money. You're not going to get booked. No one wants a sourpuss. You know, people are there to have a good time. And if you're up there on stage and you're playing some song that inside you're tired of, and you show that, that turns them off. You know, part of playing music is being a performer. You know, and no matter how crappy your day was before the gig, you got to turn it on when you get up on stage and you're doing your thing.
So so the moral of that, and this is something Lonnie McFadden told me when I was talking to him one time. He was saying something like that: if you want to do your all original band, or you know, go that artsy route or whatever, do it.
Absolutely.
But don't be mad when you're not making any money, was his argument. Right. You know, don't get pissed off when you don't get any shows. Right. You know, and it's something that a lot of artsy guys do not want to hear. Right. You know, they get pissed off when you say it to them like that. But is that kind of the moral there, or like?
Yeah, but I mean, we don't just, you know, play. We get our own little kicks playing stuff. Scotty quotes in every guitar solo. He's quoting a Rush song. Or he's quoting the Simpsons theme.
Yeah, knock that off, by the way.
Absolutely. Homer. He's our own Homer. Definitely. But no, I mean, so, and there's things we do to have fun, and we check with each other on stage, and the banter that we have. I mean, we don't really hold back, especially if there's not kids around and stuff like that. We give each other a hard time, but it's fun. And it's all in jest. We don't take it seriously, and the crowd loves it because we can keep it light. You know, we can do a heavy song. You know, not heavy like, but heavy, something that it means something to someone, and then turn around and flip each other crap, and they like that,
right?
Because it's not too serious,
right? Yeah, and I think definitely, what's his face? Craig does a fantastic job of that. He doesn't take himself too seriously, and he makes the party, and that's good. You know,
Craig's awesome.
Yeah,
Craig is he's absolutely. Craig. I love Craig, and he's one of the nicest guys. You know, he's got that A personality, especially in a gig situation like at Jerry's, where he's kind of over the top and he's crazy.
He's another one of those jerks, right?
Total jerk. No, but if you get him off stage, he's one of the most loving, caring. How are you today?
Yeah.
How you been, man? It's good to see you. He's just a good dude.
Yeah.
You know, so you can have that.
Right. One thing that you said that I thought was interesting is kind of finding the awesomeness in each song, and Scotty was kind of mentioning that of like, we're gonna make this Mustang Sally the best ever, and one drummer that I've always been really fascinated by is Nick Mason from Pink Floyd, and some of the stuff, especially on a lot of those Dark Side songs. Us and Them, and some of the really, because they're a very laid back band, and Us and Them is a great example of a really super laid back song. And even though that might be an example of a song that would be annoying on drums sometimes because you're not like rip roaring, but it is. I guarantee you there's a lot of drummers that would not be able to play that song.
No.
Because you're so far behind that beat, and it's got to be right there. And like you said, on a ballad, even if you're not doing a ton on drums, there's stuff that you can add to the song and make this laid back beat. You know, perfect's a stupid word, but you know, really do your best at this song, even if it's something that is really boring. And like you said, I mean, it sounds like you enjoy those moments, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you're a drummer and you're approaching it like that, you know, it's a boring song to play because it's slow, you're approaching it wrong. I'll never be a go-go. I'll never be a Scotty.
Yeah, go-go is something else.
Right,
yeah, he's a great drummer.
And you know, there's lots of great drummers in town. I know what I do, and it's not that. I mean, not to discount what they do. They're awesome at what they do, and they're also able to create atmosphere.
Right.
And with a drummer like Nick Mason, you're creating atmosphere. You're creating a feel. Without a drummer that can play for the song, like you and Scotty talked about, you know, you can't capture the feel. So, you know, like I said, I'll never be, you know, Mr. Rudiment or anything like that, but I take pride in the fact that I do play for the song. I listen, you know, and that's created opportunity for me, filling in with other bands. And
sure, yeah. So it's like on that note about drummers, that's one thing that he was mentioning about you that you do really well with is playing the song, you know, and not having all this other crap going on. And do you notice that a lot with drummers, about them kind of taking over the song, or what do you think about typical drummers? Is there something that they do that?
Well, I think it's great when you can do both. I think it's cool when you can, you know, do really cool fills, and what I look at, I tell Scotty, I call them magic tricks.
Yeah, right.
If you can do the magic trick thing and still capture the feel of the song, fine. But if you're one of these guys that just sits at the drums and just can do tons of tricks, but your meter's awful, and
how good are you?
Right, you can't capture feel. You've totally defeated the point of drums.
What is the point of drums?
The point of drums is to, like I said, it's you are creating the feel. I really only had one drum teacher growing up, and I was very attention deficit hyperactive, and so so I didn't do very long on the snare, but my parents got me a full kit at a pretty young age. I first got into playing drums because everybody on my mom's side were drummers. They were all Italians. They lived in Philly. We'd go visit when I was a little kid, and I would love sitting on my Uncle Tommy's drums and just banging the crap out of them. I didn't know what I was doing, but I got hooked from the very beginning. And my grandfather played in the Army band in World War II, and he was a jazz drummer and just awesome. So he always had, drums in the basement. And I really never had a teacher. Ray Santo, who's another great drummer who's in town. He's been in town for years. He was the guy that just kind of showed me some stuff.
Yeah.
But everything else has been listening, and really just for some reason, I feel like I'm very grateful for what I've been given. The ears thing was always natural for me. I could listen to things and pick them up. So I always tell people, really, my drum teachers were Phil Rudd of AC/DC. That was my first teacher, and it kind of branched off from there. People give, AC/DC crap, but Phil Rudd has the most fat pocket, just, I call him, he's like the working man's drummer. He's just, case in point, I went to the last AC/DC concert that was at Sprint Center. It was the last concert that Brian Johnson sang at. He didn't sound that good. You can tell he was getting ready because he couldn't sing any of the high stuff.
Oh, sure.
He kind of blamed it on his ears and whatever and not being able to hear. But I just don't think he could sing that stuff anymore. But
he's a guy that's been with them for forever, right?
Forever.
How does that guy still have a voice?
I don't know.
I mean, his voice is nuts, right? I mean, like,
but even his style, he's not good at singing the old Bon Scott stuff. And whoever was on drums, I don't even know who he was. He just, he was fine, but he could not capture the feel of an AC/DC song. Yeah. Same with Matt Sorum when he replaced the Guns N' Roses guy. That first Appetite record, there was a feel, a rawness that just, he came in and did the albums after, and he was a great drummer, but totally apples to oranges. To hear him play that stuff, or to hear the drummer that Axl picked up for the Guns N' Roses band that he threw together before this last tour, it's not the same. You're not getting the same feel of the songs.
Right.
They might be great technicians, but it's not the same.
Right.
So,
I heard speaking of that, of everybody having kind of their own style and not being able to capture somebody, from the 70s or this great drummer. I've heard a buddy of mine talk about like Lars Ulrich's bass drum sound. He's like, he has a style, like that fat, meaty kind of bass drum. And like, it's just funny when all of these famous bands get a new guy and it's just like, oh dude, not even close, I mean, you can just hear it and it's still great. And there's better things that this new guy brings, but they can't do what the other dude did because they're just not that guy,
Is Phil Rudd Dennis Chambers? No. But can he play Long Way to the Top, If You Want to Rock and Roll? Can he play all those old great AC/DC songs? No. And he could and probably play a million fills everywhere, but he's not going to capture the same thing.
Yeah. Right.
So you have to appreciate all the different styles of drummers, really, but especially, people the more schooled they get, they tend to want to get busier, and do more notes and do fancier things. But the basis of rock and roll and those songs is that pocket, that internal metronome that creates the feel that you're playing.
I agree. Yeah, and that's a huge point because there's a lot of like this happens a lot in the jazz world where people get up to a point, like Oscar Peterson would be an example of this kind of person who can just just fly like crazy. And it's one thing to say that if you can do that, there's a bunch of people in the world that can't. So go ahead, because nobody else can do that. But but in regards to how busy to be, that's probably one of my annoyances with drummers. It's not even volume problems for me. It's more of like people wanting to fill every 4 bars.
Right.
And like Nick Mason, again, as another example, I was listening to him the other day and I heard like dun dun ticka boom boom ticka boom, you know, on like the entire Dark Side record.
Right.
You know, I mean, and I'm not even dogging him, but he's got like 4 fills.
But
you know,
their
I mean,
signature.
But their signature, and they're perfect.
Right.
You know, I mean, every single time they're perfectly placed. They're not too much
And tasteful.
Yes, they're very, very tasteful.
You know,
and
and if you go hear a cover band that's doing a bunch of Floyd, you look for those fills. You know, and if they're not played verbatim, just like the guitar parts.
Yeah.
The Roger Waters, you know,
Right.
Those solos, they're not difficult, I don't think. I'm not a guitarist, but they're very melodic and just they're genius in not being
right
over, you know.
Because drummers are those. I always think of the drummer and bass as like the lineman in football, where if it's not right, I mean, everything goes to crap, and then when it's right, nobody gives a crap. You know, it's like, and so like. It reminds me of those, we don't notice those fills. Like random public does not notice those fills. But then when we go listen to the song and we hear Enter Sandman, do bump, bump,
right.
And we're waiting for that bump, bump.
Right.
But we don't even really, we kind of subconsciously know it's the drummer, but we don't really care, you know, and it sucks that it's like that. But we don't know how much you guys add to the music. Until it sucks and you guys aren't there, and that's just weak, right? I mean,
come to a jam night some night when there's no drummers.
They're right.
It gets pretty bad, or you get, you know, 2 or 3 guys that are super rough.
Yeah.
And I can play drums, and they want to come up. Try getting through a song with that.
Right.
And it's not even coming from a snobby place at all. It's just it's a train wreck.
Yeah.
You can't keep the song together. It just falls apart.
Yeah. And everybody feels it in 1 second on the bandstand. I mean, you can feel it when the drummer's not there, and bass is similar for all of us chord players. But when the drums aren't there, it's like, that's just the thing. I mean, when it's not there, everybody like does the Scotty look again. You know, they look back like, what the hell is going on? And then when it's there, everybody's like, okay, whatever. You know, and it's this like ridiculous expectation. Right. Of course, the drums are going to be, you know, and that's just weird. I don't know what to do. I mean, maybe that's just a life thing. It's just gonna be that way, and there's not much we can do, you know.
But you know, the best drummers, you don't know they're there, if that makes sense. You know.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
They're there to do a job, and that's a compliment, because you've built trust. Your musician, you know, your musician buddies that you're on stage with can think about other things, focus on other things, because they know you're going to be there,
and they don't have to worry about you.
Right. And that also comes from playing together for a long time.
Right.
I mean, Brett, I played with him also in Drew 6. Drew's been around for years.
Right. Yeah.
Scotty was in Drew's band in high school, as was Justin.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
So I was over here in Blue Springs, and we had our little cover band. And then the Lee Summit cover band, which actually did originals, was had Scotty. It was Laughing Jack, and it had Scotty and Justin, and they were awesome. And so he had that over there. And then the guy that I used to play with is he's still around town too. Chris Toll. He plays a lot. He's a great guitar player. But our lead singer is a huge Elvis impersonator. Matt Lewis. He's from Lee Summit, and he went off to Vegas, and he was always a great Elvis impersonator. He's made a whole living of doing Elvis. So, you know, but you get used to playing with other people. So Drew was also in their band in Laughing Jack. So it's like everybody kind of knows one another, and we ended up playing together. Drew and I played together for years. We always joke because we all took turns playing with Drew, playing drums for Drew, or doing some instrument for Drew. But playing with Brett, you know, he's a fantastic bass player. Again, same kind of thought process as the drums. He's not a Victor Wooten.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He's meat and potatoes. Lay it down, be there. And not only he's super solid guy, but you develop trust with these people on stage, and you get used to their style, and you pretty much know where they're going to go.
Right.
You know what's going to happen, and you build a trust. So
yeah, I really enjoy Brett's playing too, for that, like what you just said, and you guys are mixing really well. When I'm sure even now when you come sub every once in a while, and they still know what you're gonna do, because you played so long together, even if you've not been there for months or whatever.
And then we still do the Troubadours thing, so we're still playing. We're still playing gigs outside of
recently,
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah. I'm always so impressed by you. Like I said, I mean, your guys' set list is ridiculous. I mean, it's just monstrous amount of songs that you guys can do.
It so fun.
Oh yeah.
I love being in the car, driving to a gig, and thinking, what am I going to sing tonight? What am I going to play tonight?
Yeah.
And not knowing.
Yeah.
Because there's crazy stuff in that book. And the way we've approached it is, again, kind of like similar to the jam night thing. Not a lot of B-side stuff, but it's like all the party songs and the songs that you've heard on the radio for years, from the 50s all the way up to current stuff. And the styles and genres vary. I mean, there's Dolly Parton in there, there's Patsy Cline, there's Metallica, there's Iron Maiden, there's all kinds of stuff in there. So you really never get bored. And like Scotty said, we've never rehearsed, so it's kind of cool. You fly by the seat of the pants, you flip your ears on, and you're ready to go.
Right.
And do you screw up sometimes? Sure, but you do it in such a way where the people out in the audience don't really notice it.
Yeah.
You play it off.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and that I know that I do that quite a bit, improving. And you play, and with improving, there's this 3 times wrong thing, where you do a da da dee da ba da dee da, and you just do that thing 3 times in a row, and you just can kind of cover that up for the audience, and they have no freaking idea that you just messed up.
No.
And
as long as you're having fun, they're having fun. If you screw up on stage, and you screw up a song, it's going to change the mood of people if you have a shitty attitude and you're pissed off the rest of the song because you screwed up at the beginning of the song.
Yeah, and I know Scotty does that too, where he's throwing in the Dazed and Confused in the middle of some other song, and like when I'm in there, he'll do that, and because he knows that I'm like listening to every single note, but see, the audience isn't, and so they're just so it's easy to mess up some stuff because they're not really, they're jam night's a little bit different. It's kind of probably half and half, right? Of people kind of glad to be there and it's just ambiance, and then some other people are,
Really, it's really the case. Yeah, you have your regular players that want to come up and jam. But there's a lot of people that just come up just to watch and kind of see what's going to happen. Yeah,
and you just mentioned another thing. You have other musicians in there too, and they're what's Guy gonna do? And so that's like another element to that, I guess, about if you can screw up and it's okay, and just fix it and deal with it.
Everybody screws up. Yeah. We're human.
Right.
It's how you handle it.
Right.
And that's in everything.
Yeah.
Life too.
Right. Yeah. Tell me a little bit, you were talking to me a little bit about your mom and how you kind of got started and what she meant to your playing.
Oh, man, my mom is an amazing vocalist, and she was Marilyn May's protege. And Marilyn May's, huge. She's got the record for the most appearances on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Huge Kansas City icon. So my mom started as a little girl taking from Marilyn May, and she was also an amazing tap dancer, and took from a guy in town called by the name of Jimmy DeFore. And so from an early age, she was on a show that was filmed here in Kansas City called the Wizzo the Clown Show, kind of like the Bozo the Clown out of Chicago. We had our own here, and my mom was the featured performer every Saturday. she would sing and dance them into commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And also she did USO tours and Ice Capades stuff, and she gave all that up to raise me, and built a dance studio, a song and dance studio, and has taught hundreds and hundreds of kids. She's put she had a couple students, one that have gone and done some pretty big things. One went and did Broadway, did Annie on Broadway.
Wow.
And then they did a sequel to Annie there for a little while on Broadway that didn't really go over as well. But she's done a lot of amazing things with kids. And again, her approach is more from a pop kind of Broadway approach. It's not more classical. And so you would get these kids that would take from a classical teacher and also, add to that by coming to my mom, and she would teach them how to use belt voice and using your diaphragm, vowel sounds, all that. So I always joke that I had this crazy lady in my house the entire time I grew up. I couldn't take a shower and sing in the shower without hearing my mom saying, "Use your diaphragm, support your notes, vowel sounds." And it's like, Mom, I'm trying to take a shower here,
I don't have time for all that.
Right. But it's stuck.
That's funny.
It's stuck. And so, I was, it might have been annoying at the time, but I am so blessed to have that, because she taught me at an early age to pitch match. A lot of people really have to be worked with to tune their ears, and I was lucky. My son has it too. My grandfather had it. I get it from him, and I get it from my mom.
Yeah.
We came out of the box with being able to hear pitch, and she would work with me in the car. She'd just be driving down the road, and here I am, and it was before car seats, and she had this big old Cougar with pleather seats that you take the turn and you slide to the other side of the back seat.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
So but she would work with me while I was in the car, singing a note, sing that note. Teaching me how to match pitch, and she'd be, she loved Linda Ronstadt, and those people might be kind of cheesy or whatever, but they're technicians.
Yeah.
Roberta Flack, all those people are vocal technicians.
Yeah.
I think I posted something on Facebook on Mother's Day. My mom and my dad's song was The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. You listen to that song, and it's all about atmosphere, from the way it was recorded to the way she caresses all the notes, just the style that she brought to the table singing that song made the song. Linda Ronstadt did it, all these people, So I was lucky to be around that. And she'd have these kids that would sing in the Opries around the rural parts of Missouri. Cass County Opry was around at the time, and so she'd drag me along with her, and it might have been annoying at the time, and I might not have been interested in it, but I learned by osmosis. Because I was there, falling asleep at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night while they're doing rehearsals, or so I would hear these people doing, Rocky Top. And all that, and I didn't like it then, but God, I love it now. I love that stuff now.
Yeah.
I love old country.
Right, yeah. See, you said about 19 things there that are interesting. So the one is that you mentioned that word osmosis and how important that was to have that, and what happened because that was in the home.
Right.
Because you were just not even, because you mentioned the other moments where she's literally stopping you, outside the door of the shower, in the car or something, but even if she didn't do that, it was just in the home. And so now you're just hearing her sing with her, her voice, and all these other kids around, or the fact of just having music blaring on the stereo. You think that was pretty big deal, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and it was annoying at the time, but man, I look back now, and it was a blessing in disguise. Her first dance studio was in the basement of our house when I was a really little kid, and she always says that she'd put me in the little Jello Jumper thing that was hung from the door jamb, and it's a little harness that it works out your legs to try and get you ready to learn how to walk.
Oh, right.
And so she'd have her kids that she was teaching how to dance, and she'd throw on, at the time it was a record, that she was teaching these kids to, and I would do the Jello Jumper to the beat.
Right.
So, again, you don't think about it, but you are picking things up without knowing it.
Yeah, sure. And that is, as a teacher, that's annoying because of the kids. It's just absolutely impossible for them to see that, and that's not anybody's fault, And
Right.
you're blasting this jazz or whatever music you're playing, and like you said, they absolutely hate it. And then once they're 35 years old and their father unfortunately passes away, that's the only thing they want to listen to. The same thing, like you just said, where now I'm older and I absolutely love it. And
Right.
that's so annoying that life is like that. I'm more annoyed at life for that, that
Right.
it's just impossible to make them buy into that that you are going to love this, but I know it's annoying right now. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
I don't know what to do about that. That's like one of those questions that it's just like, I don't know if there's a solution.
There's really not, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember being in the car, and my dad, he liked to play guitar too, but he wasn't really a musician per se. He didn't really pursue it or anything, but he loved listening to good music. And at the time, I would be annoyed with Crosby, Stills, Nash,
Right.
and that kind of stuff. What is this?
Yeah.
This is an owner of a lonely heart. This
Right.
is,
This is adult crap.
Right. This is.
Yeah.
What are these guys singing? When is it gonna rock?
Right.
Now, you mature. Your taste buds mature.
Yeah, sure.
And
At the end of Sweet Judy Blue Eyes is when it starts.
Right. Yeah. Right. But then you learn to appreciate all that stuff because there's so much texture.
Yeah, right.
There's so much. It's so much more than just some crappy song on the radio.
Right.
Even though it's it might be some pop song you've heard a million times. I always think of this example, Dancing Queen. ABBA Dancing Queen. ABBA might be the cheesiest thing on earth, but there's something about that damn song. If you listen to it on a good stereo, the way it's recorded and produced, the way that those girls, the texture of their voices and how they blend, there's a magic happening.
Right.
And just the arrangement, there's so much that goes into just a crappy pop song that's a good one that gets taken for granted. You really got to listen to it.
Yeah.
You listen to like Let's Get It On, Marvin Gaye. You probably heard it a million times, but how many times have you really sat down and listened to it on a good stereo and heard Marvin doing the backup harmonies, the backup vocals?
Oh man,
Let Me Love.
Yeah, right.
All the cool texture, little background things that make that song sound so fat and ooze. You know?
He was really known for that. You're right. When you listen to some of his stuff, there's all of this.
All kinds of crap.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's layers. It creates layers, And so, there's so much more to hear in just a pop song that you're tired of hearing. There's a lot more going on. Now, I might be showing my age, but some of the stuff today, maybe not as much because, it's the recording process has gotten a lot easier. There's not as much organic stuff going on.
Yeah.
Whereas in the 70s and the 60s, you had these guys that were trying to create sounds in an organic method.
Yeah.
They didn't have all these fancy toys. They didn't have Pro Tools. They didn't have, anything to fix pitch and all that. For sure, the Billboard kind of level, they were really experimenting more in the 70s, huh? And they've kind of locked it down to this formula now, and now they don't even worry about all that crap you're talking about. They just have their formula, and they're just going to pound you in the face with this formula, and you're going to like it. Look at today's country.
Yeah, right. Yep.
A lot of people like it. I'm not going to say, I'll say to each his own. You know, I'm not going to say it's awful. It's just not my thing.
It's different, yeah.
Occasionally I'll hear a song that I like that I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. But, a lot of them are just, it's pretty much very much a formula, which is fine. I mean, there was formulas existed forever. But, I grew up loving the Mamas and Papas. And not just listening to them sing and listening to the arrangements. I didn't think about it when I was younger. But then I started learning about the Wrecking Crew and the people that were, responsible for making them sound so great. Those musicians that were just the A-listers that were in the studio for everybody. Glenn Campbell was one of them. He was on all kinds of records playing guitar. Hal Blaine played drums for everything. He played drums on all
Funk Brothers for Motown. Yeah, I mean those guys were like freaking famous.
The Four Tops. You listen to some of those records and you listen to that bass player. That dude is just walking all over the place. Yeah. And so tasteful. It creates feel. So
Yeah,
there's something to appreciate in everything.
Sure. Yeah, man. They're like I said, there's a bunch of stuff you said there that was funny. I can really relate to the shower thing that you're talking about, where your mom's outside and like you can't even have fun, and she's like, like telling you, oh no, do that, and I'll do that. I'll notice myself do that with my students, where they'll just kind of start plucking something, which I'm glad about, because they're like experimenting in their head, and I can tell they're trying to play some song that they heard, and like I'll notice myself starting to be like, oh, do that with an F sharp, and I'll start like, oh wait, no, that, and like that's just funny to me how it's almost like sometimes it's hard for me to have fun playing music anymore, sometimes because I get way too analytical in it and stuff, and
but
do you ever have that? Like,
they might get annoyed by it, but it's just like the osmosis thing. They file it still. They might outwardly be like, oh, God, man, he's just constantly at my ass. But at the same time, they file it, and later on, when they go to play it again and really play it, they remember what you said. Those were in-house vocal lessons for me. By someone that was taught by a master. And so I didn't appreciate it then, but man, those were vocal lessons. Me singing in the shower, and so it made me so much better at what I do today, and then I did choir in school and learned. I haven't done it in years, but I used to know how to read, vocal music and
did you like choir?
Loved choir. Loved choir. And I was always one of these kids where I liked a little bit of everything. So I played a ton of sports. And I had all my jock friends, and then I had my metal friends that I'd listen to Metallica and stuff with, and then I had my choir friends, and I dug all of it, I liked I never had a problem with people from different, backgrounds or anything. I never really got into that, because I've always felt like you can learn a little bit from everybody and appreciate. Everybody has their own uniqueness, and you can appreciate if you just allow it to happen. Appreciate their uniqueness. So the choir thing was cool. I was involved in a couple quartets and double quartets that we took stuff to state and got ones at state.
That's cool.
And that's a great feeling. It's the same feeling as a sport, playing a sport and being good at. So,
did you like singing those? What was the biggest difference doing the quartets and the large group? Did you like one over the other, or what was the big chat? Was there more of a challenge on one or the other?
Well, I mean, like a quartet or double quartet, you have a specific part that you are bringing to the group. Whereas if you're in a large ensemble, you're in a group of about 10 other guys trying to sing that part. So it's not about so much. I mean, you want to blend in both situations to where you guys sound like one voice. But if you're in a quartet or a double quartet, you can't help but for your voice to be heard because you're singing a very distinct part. Whether it be baritone, bass, or
that was always really different for me. It wasn't that big of a deal when I went from orchestra into these band things, because it's a kind of a similar thing where you're the only one on your part. but I was really used to playing by myself and stuff, so me just sitting there playing wasn't ever a problem. But it's definitely really, really exposing.
It teaches you intonation.
Yeah.
It teaches you, again, the whole ear thing.
Yeah.
If you're in the big choir with a lot of people and you're able to really distinctly be heard, then that's not your superstar moment. That's not the setting that you want that to happen.
Right. Yeah.
So, you learn how to back off and blend. Listen to the other parts that are around you and blend. And that goes with drums or violin, whatever.
Sure, yeah. And speaking of that, do you think that's probably I've been getting really into singing backup for, because I lead sang with my band for a while, but I've never really backup sang until this last band that I've been in for the last 3 or 4 years. But I've had a lot of fun doing that. I have a ton of fun singing backup right now, and it's like a whole new thing that I'm not used to do. Now I'm sort of more used to it, but like it's been really fun to do that. Like you said, it's just as good as the winning the tournament or so. Yeah, and it feels just as good as my regular part to sing that backup.
Oh yeah.
Do you like singing backup
absolutely,
too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a different animal, but I love doing the lead stuff. But Scotty does, he does the deal with Crystal, the Beauty and the McBeast thing.
Yeah.
But he and I will also do stuff as a duet or a duo, however you want to say.
Yeah.
And we just basically take turns singing lead. He'll do a song, I'll do a song, he'll do a song. But even when I'm singing back up to him, it's creating texture. It's creating that sound. There's something beautiful. There's something magic about being able to harmonize. And some people can't do it. They don't know how to do it. They can't hear it. I consider myself lucky to be able to do it. I consider myself lucky to be able to play with Scotty and the people that I'm surrounded by.
Yeah.
And Scotty's always been very patient with my lack of schooling. I always call him my musical translator because I'll do things and he can put a name to it, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like my ear allows me to do things,
but you don't know what you're doing.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And he'll say, "Oh yeah, you're doing this."
I totally know what you mean, because that's how I felt for a really long time, because I started like 3 years old. I mean, I was able to do stuff and I didn't even know what was going on, and playing Silent Night in 3 different keys as a 5th grader. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. But that's what college gave me. My playing ability was here and my understanding was here, and then I just straight up leapfrogged like crazy. I gained some playing, but now I have a very high understanding about this is a C sharp diminished, and then the next chord is all that stuff, and
that's awesome.
But I think I could probably speak for Scotty right here that that there's those regular songs that you guys would play. I think he would be obviously. I think I could probably speak for him, and he'd probably agree with this, that if he were to be playing with somebody, he would be much less annoyed if somebody can come in and wax like a really hard song than screwing up screwing up a song that we all should be doing right, that we usually do right. Or, if you guys have many shows where you played this song and then somebody comes in and just, 6 gigs in a row kind of just botches it. And I think that's what he would be more... And I won't speak for him anymore, but that's for me. I don't have a problem with anybody not being at a certain level of anybody else.
No.
It's just getting the basic stuff, like he was talking about with you, where you play the song right, but it's not about being able to do something at 300, beats per minute. It's like whatever, but there's some dudes that can play 300, but then they can't do it. Like I said, can't do a Nick Mason regular
without feel.
Yeah, regular laid back stupid song that they can't even do.
And I've seen people from that side of things where they're these amazing technicians and they're schooled and they're big readers, but they're so buried into reading that they totally forget about the feel.
Yes.
The meter goes, the feel goes, because it's so rigid. Because it's, where am I on this sheet music? Where I wish I had some of that, where I could read more stuff, but it is what it is. Again, I try and pick stuff. You never stop learning, you know. And being around someone like Scotty is a great opportunity to pick things up.
Right.
So
yeah,
I'm learning all the time.
Oh yeah, we all are, man. I mean, all of us can always get better. And I said that on the show that I've always had this theory because I'm dealing with sight readers in my lessons constantly, and they all are literally, you know, I mean, their body's up and all of their shit is right here,
Right,
you know,
right.
and that's their whole energy and their focus. And I know that when I, like, for a long time, because I played by ear first, I know that when I played, I was really good at closing my eyes and really doing the muscle memory of playing, and I didn't have to look at anything. But I was realizing when I saw them is that my whole crap is in, you know, and that's fine. When you're playing by yourself, you need to be kind of more internalized. But Scotty was mentioning the whole idea of you guys listening, and so now some drummers are only in, and they need to go out with their listening, really
Right.
listen to the other people in the band, and so like that is annoying when like what you're saying, where they just get really focused on this.
You can play all
this
these fancy
page,
fills, and you're totally messing.
but they're
up this
not
one.
listening,
Right.
you know, and like so. I don't know. That's like an opposite weird thing with sight readers and ear players, and then drummers that are just really self-absorbed, you know, and they're like, I hate the ones that are sitting here and they'll be playing and out on the stage and they're sitting here like this the whole gig, they're staring at the wall and we're ready to cue them and they're just like,
it's like, hello, over here, hello.
you know, yeah, that is.
I mean, now I'm guilty of that in a way because sometimes I'll find myself really listening hard.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of be like turning,
Right.
I guess, you know, this ear or something to really kind of listen to what Scotty's doing over here
Right.
because he's usually on my right, Brett's usually on my left, so sometimes I'm guilty of that, but I've learned over time to okay, kind of look up and give some visual, take some
Right.
visual cues
Sure.
as well.
But that's not autopilot, you know, and that's
Right.
the good thing about it is you're not on autopilot.
No,
You're,
no.
you're yeah.
I'm definitely listening and I'm
Right.
trying to figure out what's coming next.
Right, sure. That's good. That's great.
But not even Scotty, you know, we have a guy that plays with us. We give each other so much shit, and we are so cruel to one another, you know, and it's no holds barred. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
my mom has dated everybody in the band apparently, you know. So, but you know, then we've got who we call Glenda, which is Bruce.
Yeah.
And Bruce is like, you know, Bruce is amazing because he is like the encyclopedia.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little bit older than us.
Mm-hmm.
So he got to see all the cool concerts.
Right.
He saw the Beatles. He saw the
Yeah.
Who. And so he can give us stories.
Yeah.
And he comes with a vast, you know, songbook to add to what we do too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you know, again, you don't ever stop learning, and it might be the really technical musician side of things like Scotty, or you know what Bruce brings to the table.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, we haven't given Scotty quite enough crap yet.
He's a jerk.
Mean, he's pretty much a jerk.
Total
But,
jerk. Total jerk.
But yeah, man. So we're probably wrapping up here.
Right
Do
on.
you got a fun? You got something in the music scene that has happened that was just you'll never forget, or probably many of them, I'd guess. But
You know, there's so many random things. People just are so bizarre sometimes, especially when you add alcohol.
right.
Just, you know, the things that we've seen people do, you know, we're just hosting jams. We played out in Independence for a while and did a jam out there, and just the odd cast of characters that would come in there on whatever substance they were on, not just
jeez.
alcohol, and the way they would just right in the middle of the dance floor, right in the middle of the bar, decide to take their shirt off.
Yeah.
And
right.
these aren't, you know, these aren't athletes. These aren't like people that you want to see their shirt off necessarily. Just big old 300-pound dude whipping his shirt off, beating his belly and dancing and stuff. There's that kind of stuff, which is fun. But then there's also the camaraderie that you build, like doing out-of-town gigs and traveling and being in the car with one another and listening to music, taking turns. Here's what I like. Check this song out. Then they play one and you talk about it, and it builds You know, you learn about new things, you learn about new songs. And then there's the, you know, I always liked traveling to stop at the truck stops because that is such a hodgepodge, crazy mix of shit that you can't find anywhere. It's a circus. So you got, you know, places where people are taking showers and doing laundry and watching movies, and then you got all this random shit that's for sale. You know, everything from big old buck knives to these really creepy, like life-size little girl dolls. It's like, okay, what's some burly trucker doing with that thing in his cab? Geez. I don't want to know. Yeah. But it's just fun to, you know, I love people watching, and you not only get to watch people from the stage, but just the whole deal behind the scenes too. Checking into your hotel. Right. Going to the truck stops, sound checking.
I've never been on like a tour before. Well, I did with the orchestra, I guess. I take that back, but not as a band. But I've definitely done gigs out of town, and it's just crazy, right? I mean, that's kind of half of it is the travel and like
road trips. So I love a road trip, and so you know, I never get sick of that because you're fine. You get to go see something different. You're out of your regular routine, and you know that could be today when we playing down at the lake or something. Scotty and I will occasionally go down to Coal Camp and play a little wine bar called Winos as the duet, and that's a blast. It's an easy drive. They take great care of us. The crowd is awesome. You go to these small rural communities and they love quality musicians and something that's done well. They come from all over these small towns to Coal Camp to watch us. And
isn't that crazy?
It's crazy. Yeah. And they throw money in the tip jar, and they're having a good time, and that's where it's at. It's not, the tip jar is great and the money's fine, but man, watching people having a good time doing what you do and connecting with people that you wouldn't normally connect with necessarily or have a chance to talk to, that's where it's at.
There's probably a major league metaphor in there, or a life lesson for what happens when you don't get thrown something in your face all the time, like they're being kind of starved for the good musicians, and when you get there, people are so appreciative of it, and that's one. I would assume that New York would be very similar to this, but I think that's one thing that does happen in Kansas City a lot when people, like for example, when you go to like a blues jam and you hear Dave Hayes and you hear all these people that are almost as good as he is, like every week, and then you're like, okay, this is average people playing blues, and then you go down somewhere else and then you're like, oh wow, this is not average people. We have a pretty good scene here. There's a lot of good players, and it's really easy to.
But it's easy to become, I guess, used to that. Like you said, you just kind of take it for granted.
Sure, yeah.
There's a lot of great players in Kansas City. There's all these little scenes that exist where everybody kind of knows one another, but everybody travels in their own circles. And I've found that, and this is a big lesson for the young players coming up, be cool, know your shit, come prepared, but the big things, just be cool. Yeah. Be on time, be considerate of others. You're going to get gigs, just be a good person and be interested in what's going on. And the word spreads no matter what scene you're in. And Scotty's a master of it, all the different people he plays with.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. I love that because
even though he's a dick.
How many people in town are good enough players to do the gig, but their attitude is absolutely crap.
You can't stand being around them. And that sucks.
And then they never get called.
Right. Yeah. Right. And they do that to themselves. There's I'm not going to mention names, but there's people in town that are amazing players and amazing singers. Yeah. But social media presence is huge nowadays. Yeah. And their social media presence just absolutely sinks them. No one wants to work with them because they're drama. Nonstop, they're great in person when you go to the gig, and they come and they're prepared and they sing great. But then, after you've had this great time with them and they're in this great mood, 2 hours later they're on Facebook and they're a complete train wreck. And that kills them. No one wants to deal with that shit.
Wow. Yeah, that I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, it's just it's just hard. It's not enough to be a good player anymore. And then this has probably always been like this, you know, with just attitude.
There's good players everywhere.
Yeah, and you just don't know. And what happens is, in their mind, they always come back. Well, that band owner was just a dick. I'm not going to play with those guys anymore. Well, who's, you know, because they're going to put it on the band owner, right? And they're never going to put it on themselves.
It's never about them.
Yeah.
But it's always about them.
Yeah.
You know what I
right.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when they post stuff like that, they're posting from a place where me. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it is overcompensation, probably because they do have a low self-esteem and they're trying to maybe, you know.
Ouch.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah,
they're trying to, you know, puff their chest out and I'm this and I'm this and when in reality they think very, very low of themselves, which is a shame.
It's a compensation,
Which is a shame because they don't need to.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
I'd much rather play with someone that's just a good musician or good at what they do and that's really, really cool than play with, you know, someone who's a total asshole.
Right.
That like Scotty. And just kidding.
Just getting a little extra little death. Yeah. But I totally know what you mean, man, because that's a big that's probably show them that again.
Yeah, right there.
We don't need no stinking rush.
No, I don't want to hear that little leprechaun singing. He's not even. He's a Canadian leprechaun.
Oh God, they're the worst.
No, and but, you know, we give Scotty a lot of crap about Rush. It's not something, again, to each his own. So it's not something that I gravitate towards. I can appreciate it.
Yeah.
I can appreciate the musicianship.
Right.
But it's not something that I just enjoy listening to.
Yeah.
You know, and that's fine.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
There's people that don't like what I listen to too, and I'm fine with that. You know.
Yeah. I am fascinated by that kind of stuff, that what we were just talking about what people, their mentality is X, Y, and Z, and then when push comes to shove, when something happens, and they are always going to flip it. You know, they're always going to flip it on. And this happens a lot with club owners too, or with people talking about club owners, where and this is what Scotty was dropping on and so did Craig, is saying like, man, you know, you guys can sit and bitch about all these other bands that those guys aren't even good, you know, and bitch about all these bands doing it, but then when push comes to shove, they're just sitting here blaming. You know, they're just sitting there blaming the whole entire world, and they can do that to the club owners too, where it's like these you know, these stupid club owners, they're so greedy, and I'm like, yeah, but your attitude is crap. You know, and you're not fun to be around, and you're not doing any work, and you're complaining the whole time, and you know, like, I just find that really fascinating how they never want to take it. You know, it's always push on somebody else.
Right, and you know, I think we're all maybe at times a little guilty of it.
Sure.
But it's how you catch yourself and how you know, catch yourself in that and be like, okay, that's not cool.
Yeah.
Like, I love the fact that we can do, you know, all request stuff and people can pick songs out of the books. You know, there's some bands that they play the same set list every gig, no matter where you go to in town. I don't hate them for it. It's a product. They've created a product.
Yeah.
It's and people like that. And as long as they're selling drinks and they're getting booked, more power to them.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean.
Would I want to do that? I don't think so.
Right.
I've been down that road, and you know, it's fun. But you know, the analogy I always used to think, if you've ever been horseback riding, and the horse is used to going on the same trail with these people that ride him every day to go horseback. The closer he gets to the barn, the more he starts trotting, because he knows the end's coming and he's going to get a sugar cube and he's going to get some water.
Yeah.
There becomes that when you're playing in a cover band and you're doing the same songs. You're like, okay, this is the last set. This is the third to the last song. It just becomes, okay, you know, there's a middle ground where you get really tired and you're kind of bored with things. And then it's like, okay, you start to pick it up at the end because you know the end's coming.
Yeah,
Here we
that's
go.
funny. Yeah, I don't know.
So
that's funny, man. Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much
stuff.
We covered a lot of stuff. That's it. Guy Hodson. Thanks for coming, man.
Honored, my
thanks,
friend.
Thanks
Honored.
for doing the interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Get out of here. We'll see you guys later on the next edition. So see ya.
Support the Kansas City music scene for sure.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I agree.
And this guy, he's amazing.
Thanks, man. Thanks for saying that. But get out of here. We're tired of you guys.
Bye.